Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Christine, and I recently launched a new sewing pattern called the Mott, which is this little summer top that ties at the shoulders with these bows, and it comes in the shirt length, which I'm wearing here. It also comes in a longer length, which is like a nightgown or a dress. Does have pockets, and then it also comes with a really easy pull-on elastic waist short and a pant length as well. So I originally designed this pattern for my slow fashion brand where I use a lot of vintage embroidered linens that have, really pretty embroidery. But what I wanted to do was create the same effect as a vintage linen without the vintage linen. So I created 3 beginner-friendly embroidery patterns that are actually included in the sewing pattern. And this allows you to do some really simple beginner-friendly embroidery and then have the effect of a vintage or really special embroidered piece on your garment. So in today's video, I just wanted to walk through the 3 beginner-friendly, really easy hand embroidery stitches that we're going to use in order to get our hand embroidered design onto our fabric. We're going to be covering 3 different stitches. The first is the backstitch. The second is the lazy daisy stitch. And then the third is a French knot. So I promise, these are all really easy to do. You can definitely do this. So as far as supplies go, we're going to need a couple little things in order to do the embroidery. The first is an embroidery hoop. So what this allows us to do is hold our fabric taut so that we can, easily do the embroidery, and it just keeps your fabric nice and consistent. So this one that I have is about a 5-inch embroidery hoop, and this is big enough for this little embroidery pattern. When I use this hoop with a larger embroidery pattern, I just move it as I do my embroidery, and that works fine for me. You could also buy a slightly larger hoop if you'd like. This size is really nice in my hand. So I like the 5-inch, but you can definitely play. These are available at your local craft store, maybe your dollar store, and definitely online as well. They're not all that expensive. So the second thing that you're gonna need is embroidery needles. Or unembroidered, just one embroidery needle. So the last time I was at my mom's house, I picked up one of her embroidery needles to use quickly, and it was in a pack that was obviously vintage, I think from maybe the 1960s. And oh my goodness, did I notice the difference in quality from the ones that I was using at home. So I had bought just, a really cheapo pack at the kind of the Chinese store. So they were really low quality. I didn't know the difference. But as soon as I used hers, I was like, I've got to get some quality needles. So I recently did go to my local sewing shop, and I picked up these needles made in France. This pack was about $6, and I've been really impressed with the quality of them. So this is size 3-9. It's just a really standard embroidery needle. So whatever embroidery needle you have on hand, that's what we're going to use today. Okay, the third thing we're going to need is either a water-soluble marking pen, or this one is a heat-soluble marking pen with a nice fine point tip. Because what we're going to do is we're actually going to take our embroidery pattern, trace it onto our fabric, and then do our embroidery. And then after it's done, we're going to want to remove our, our guiding lines. So some kind of removable marking pen is great to have. Then we're going to need a skein of embroidery thread. So this is just really, I'm sure you've seen this, DMC thread. One strand of this actually has 6 strands of embroidery thread. So it's really, we're going to actually be just using 2 of this. But so you want to get whatever color or colors you'd like for your design. Today I'm going to be doing this baby blue on white. And then I have this baby blue bias tape that I'm going to end up putting along the straps. So I'll do the embroidery in blue and then this contrast on the straps. So this is a little bit of a test that I'm doing for my slow fashion brand. Maybe this is a style that I'll roll out. So speaking of your fabric, I do my embroidery design first, and then I cut out the actual pattern. So you're going to be working with this front bodice piece. So you want to just make sure you have a a piece of fabric that's, a bit larger than that pattern piece would be, you want to pick the center front of that piece of fabric, and that's where we're going to place our design, which I'm going to show you how I do that next. Before we get started, I just want to show you this super cute little sunbonnet Sue that I have. This is vintage, I think probably from like the 60s or 70s maybe. My mom gave me, and you lift up her skirt and that's where you can store your embroidery needles. She's so cute. So this actually has some of the stitches that we're going to do today. The French knot here is her flowers, and her little leaves here are lazy daisies. So these are two of the stitches that we're going to be covering today. So now we're going to trace our design onto our fabric. I am super easy, low, I guess old school, and I just tape my design onto my window and I trace it from there. There are these really fancy light boxes that if you're going to be doing a lot of embroidery, it just kind of like sits on top of your table and allows you to get the light behind to trace your design. It's the same effect as a window. So I'm going to just tape my design to the window, tape my fabric over it, and trace away. Okay, so now I have my design traced onto my fabric. You can see it doesn't have to be exact. Now what we're going to do is we want to separate our hoop into two pieces. And let's see, I always kind of have to go which one goes on top and which one goes on bottom. This one fits in, so I think I need to put this on the bottom and then this one on the top. So I like to have my hoop where my design is facing up and it's this side, as opposed to working like this indent here is a little harder to get your hand in. So I always like to have it positioned like this, and you can even kind of pull your fabric to make it even tighter in there. And you can do this, as you work, as you work on your design. Let's just pop this in here again. There we go. And then what I do, once I have my fabric kind of the way I want it, then I just tighten this up here. So yeah, that's how we use our hoop. So now that we have our hoop all ready to go, we want to get our thread ready to go. So what I do is I just find the end and I pull out, I guess I'm probably working with about a yard, let's say. So like 36 inches or so of thread, more or less. I just kind of eyeball it. So we'll cut off that length. And then, like I kind of mentioned before earlier, so this is one strand of our DMC, but when you separate this out, just go to like one of the ends, you can see there's actually 6 individual strands. And what we're going to do, I normally for this embroidery, I like to work with 2 strands, so 2 out of 6. If you were to use this whole strand as it is, you would just get a really thick embroidery, like your thread would raise off of the fabric more. This particular one that I did here, I did with 3 strands. And you can see it definitely pops off the fabric quite a bit. I don't mind it. I think 3 is really beautiful, but for me, doing this baby blue, I want to experiment with 2. So just kind of experiment. I think you're safe with 2, 3. If you want something even more bold, go with 4 maybe. So what I do is technically you want to pull each of these strands individually. So just find one. And then what I do is I just go like this, and you just want to separate it from the rest of the things. And then I just lay it down on my table, and then I'm going to pull my second one from the strand. So I'm just pulling. If you, let's say you just try to pull 2 out at the same time, your embroidery thread will get all like tangled and twisted and sometimes knotted. So that's why we do it individually. And that way also, now when we go to put these 2 together, they're individual. They're not twisted at all. And it makes your embroidery stitches just a little bit cleaner and easier to manage the thread. So I've got my 2 strands out of 6. I'm going to just find one of my needles in here. Let's see. I'll choose this one, and I'm just going to thread my needle and tie a knot at the end. Yeah, I don't think you're technically supposed to do that, like wet the end, but I'm old school and that's how I do it. Okay, yay, I got it threaded. So now I'm just gonna pull one end, and I'm going to knot this end, and then we'll start our embroidery. Okay, so as we look at our design, I'm going to just point out the 3 stitches. So anything that has the little vines, we're going to do a back stitch to get the line. And then the little leaves off of the lines, those are going to be a lazy daisy. And then the flowers, each of these is a lazy daisy stitch to get the daisy. And then in the center of each of the flowers is a French knot. And then this row down here and here, the little dots, those are all French knots. So what I like to do is start, I'm right-handed, so I start on the left-hand corner and kind of work my way left to right. That's how I do it. You could literally start anywhere you want on this design. I know there are ways to make the back of your embroidery really, really, really beautiful. In this case, I don't worry about the beautifulness of the back of my embroidery because we are going to be putting this, it's going to be completely covered in the inside of our garment. So I don't put too much pressure on myself to do like a really beautiful like back side of the embroidery. So I've just tied a really basic knot on my thread, and I'm going to start in the upper corner here with a back stitch. So we'll do this little vine. So what I like to do to do the back stitch is I'm pulling up my needle so the end of my vine is here, and I'm just going to go in about 1/8 of an inch in from that, like down the vine, and pull up my needle there. And I just pull it until I reach the knot. And then I'm going to put my needle back down where I first, at the very, very start of that vine, and I just drop my needle down. So this is the back stitch, and it works as a back stitch. You're literally working backwards. So it looks like I got a little tangle in my thing. Okay. So sometimes, the thread will get tangled or something will happen and you just kind of, you just work it slowly but surely. So you can see I've got 1 stitch done there. And this is what it looks like from the back side. And now I'm just going to go about like 1/8 of an inch away from the start of that last stitch and just come up. And then I'm going to drop my needle down where that last stitch, where I came up on that last stitch. So it literally is, we're sewing forward, but we're doing it in a back stitch kind of way. So now I've got 2 stitches there, and you can't really see much from the back. So I'm just going to make sure I'm pulling everything nice and tight. Now I'm just going to go another like 1/8 of an inch away, pull my needle up, and then put my needle down where that last stitch started there. I'll just keep doing this until I fill in my my little, oops, got the thread tail from the knot came through, no big deal. We just pull it out, and then I'll put my needle back down. So you can see now we've got a nice little vine coming in with this really pretty back stitch. So from here, I can now do a lazy daisy. So with the lazy daisy, you can see I've got my my little design there to do a little leaf. So I'm going to pull my needle up where that last back stitch ended there, and just pull my needle up all the way. And then I'm going to put my needle back down just a couple threads over from where I just pulled it up. So not in the same hole, just like a fiber or 2 over. But I'm not going to pull, I'm just going to put my needle, maybe like 1/2 of an inch through. And then I'm not going to pull it, I'm going to pull it up at the end of my little guide marking there. So I'm literally just doing my needle like that. And then the thread tail that I have, I'm just gonna wrap it around my needle like that. You could do it left to right, or you could do it the other direction, right to left, like I'm doing. Kind of just depends on which side you've gone to the side of. Like I've gone over to the left like 1 or 2 fibers, and so my thread tail is naturally on my right. And I just swing it around my needle and then pull my needle through. And you just pull it all the way. And that gives you that little, it's like a little leaf stitch. But we still have this thread up here. So then what I'm going to do is just put my needle down at the very tip of that leaf there. And voila, we've got a little leaf. Looks pretty good, right? So now what I do is I'm just kind of working my way left to right. So the next stitch that I see is going to be right here. I'm going to do another lazy daisy. So I just kind of come up through my fabric. Oops, I've got that knot thread tail coming through again. It's like, hey, I want to be on the outside. There we go. Oops, still there. Okay, so I've pulled my needle up. I'm going to just go over a couple fibers and put my needle back down in, and then just come up again like that. Just wind my fabric, pull this through, and then just go back down into the fabric. And I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more lazy daisies around to make this flower.
Are turning brown.
Okay, so there is our final lazy daisy stitch. So we have flowers coming to life. It's looking really pretty. So you may feel like, oh, like I feel like I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, it doesn't look that good. But I promise, once you get it all done, when it's all together, it looks really pretty. So just keep going, even though I'm like, oh, I don't really like it, but I know that I felt that way on every embroidery design that I've done. So now let's do the French knot. So we're going to do a French knot to do the little center point of our daisy. And so my needle is behind my fabric right now. So I'm just going to pull it up from behind to the front, right kind of in the center of my daisy. Pull it all the way up. And now what we're going to do is, this one takes 2 hands. So I'm going to just pull one side, hold my thread with one, hold my needle with my other hand, and I wrap it around my needle once. And then I'm just going to then drop my needle back down in the center of my flower and just pull it all the way through like that. And then it's like a little knot that we're creating. So let's practice that more. I'm going to go from where I am now. I'm going to just go from behind up to this French knot dot. Pull it up. I'm just going to hold one side and just wrap like that. Just one twist kind of around the needle, and just carefully then put my needle right back where I came up. And just pull it down. You get this really pretty little French knot. You can also do 2 twists. So if you want a slightly larger French knot, you can wrap it. Here, we'll do one. You can wrap your needle 2 times. So 1, 2, and then put it back down. It'll give you a slightly larger French knot. So you can see it's really subtle, but it's just slightly larger. For example, my girl here, these are really large French knots, maybe multiple twists of the thread. I like one or two. I think it gives you just like a really pretty, delicate little French knot. So we'll just do this again. Oh, I lost my thread. Oopsie. So I've done a bit more work and now I'm at the point where I'm kind of getting short on thread. So this is what the back of my project is looking like. And the front, you can see how it's starting to take shape. So I wanted to just quickly show you how I tie off this thread. So what I do is I find my last stitch and I just kind of run my needle under, and I then run my needle through that loop to create a knot. And I just pull it. I don't pull it too hard because I don't want to mess up the stitch on the back or on the front. And then I'll just do it again. Do a little knot, make sure the knot is tight, but not necessarily pulling the front. And then I just cut this, leave, maybe like a 1/2 inch thread tail. And obviously this is all going to be covered by another piece of fabric once we have it on our bodice. Yeah, and then I would just start again. I did all the French knots, the back stitch, and the little lazy daisies there. So I'd probably just maybe start here and just kind of start working my way over. So that's our embroidery. A really simple 3 techniques: the lazy daisy, the back stitch, and the French knot. So I hope you enjoy doing your own embroidery, and definitely drop any questions you have below, and please tag me on Instagram when you make your embroidery. I'd love to see what you create. Okay, until next time, bye.